Welcome in, everybody, to the 423 Football Podcast. Today, we've officially kick off. I know it's been a few weeks since the Super Bowl ended, but I think this is the episode that really kicks off our offseason shows. We got a full slate of shows for the next couple of months. We're talking free agency, we're talking NFL draft, rookies, the whole 9 yards. So we're here today to kick off free agency with our QB discussion. So we're talking free agent QBs this year, 2018. I am your host, Brandon Bouchard, joined here, as always, by Brett Hamilton.
Hello.
And I guess we'll just kick off this. I know probably this episode, we're going to break down, not too in-depth, just how free agency works. And then, obviously, the next couple of episodes, we'll be talking running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. But this today, solely QBs. But yeah, we'll lay out some important dates that you need to be aware of for the off-season and things like that. And then we're just going to break down our top 10 QBs that are available in free agency. We'll give you some honorable mentions at the end and try to give you our predictions on where they might end up. So, I guess, is there any specific news you want to talk about right now? I know Jimmy Garoppolo, I guess that's the big thing for free agency and QBs. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, he's not going to be on our list this week for QBs because he's already signed. So we just left him off there and make it a little easier. He's already signed 5-year, $137 million deal. He's going to be with the 49ers for probably the rest of his career, if all things go well, if everything works out. But
if it works out how they want it to,
if it works out how they paid him, so I guess we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm gonna break down the important off-season dates that you need to be aware of. A lot of stuff goes on between now and the draft, and then up until that, like OTAs and spring training eventually, but that's in the summer. So, first things first, coming up, obviously today is the 19th, so tomorrow is the first day teams can place franchise tags on players. So I don't really think that any of these teams will place franchise tags on these QBs. We'll talk about that when we go through each one. But that's when they first can place the franchise tags, and obviously once they place them on there, players have the option to sign or not sign, things like that. Then February 27th through March 5th, that's the NFL Scouting Combine. We'll still be talking free agency during that time, most likely. So we won't be talking rookies at the moment. We won't be talking draft prospects.
What kind of accent was that?
Draft prospects. We will not be talking draft prospects just yet. So we'll be talking NFL draft after the Combine. And then, let's see, March 6th, deadline for teams to designate franchise tags. So February 20th, we have the first day they can, and then March 6th is the deadline. So usually there's really not that many teams putting franchise tags on players. I think there were 6 last year, and that was it. It's just how it, I guess how it would fit for that team and what their cap situation is. March 14th, 2018 season officially begins, the calendar year for the NFL. So that's when 2017, all the contracts expire. Free agency officially begins. So this is when everything starts to kick off and people can start signing and officially signing for other teams, I should say, because obviously Garoppolo is signed for the Niners already. And trading can start as well. Although there's really not that many trades in the NFL. And then April 20th is the deadline for restricted free agents to sign their offer sheets. I'll break down the restricted free agent, unrestricted free agent here in a second. And then April 26th is the 2018 NFL Draft. So, that's pretty much the schedule laid out up until the draft. And hopefully we'll be able to get all of our episodes in before the draft actually occurs. So we'll just see how it goes. So, unrestricted free agent and restricted free agent. I'm not going to go too in-depth in this because obviously it's pretty readily available if you want to learn how all this works. And like really, really in depth because there's different levels of restricted free agency and like how they get compensated if they let them go and things like that. But unrestricted free agent is basically you can sign wherever you want. You can entertain any offer you want. The team you are currently on can't. They have no restrictions against you. They can't make another offer and match anything. So restricted free agents, which that's it's basically the same thing, except once another team makes an offer for a player, the team that player currently resides on can match that offer. And there are different levels to that. Like, who's a popular, Kirk Cousins, yeah, I guess we could use Kirk Cousins. I can't remember exactly what round he was drafted in. I think it was second or third in the draft. Say that he was a restricted free agent and a team made an offer they made him like a $20 million offer, which I know that's stupid because the franchise tag is like 21. So they made him like a $20 million offer, and then the Redskins did not match that. Then he would obviously he could sign with that team that offered the $20 million, and Kirk Cousins or the Redskins, since they let him go, would be compensated a third-round pick. So it's a little more in-depth than that. I'm just being very, very broad, but that's basically how it works. Restricted free agency, you really, 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 it's rare to see players move to a different team when they are restricted free agents. Now, there's situations where other teams can take advantage of that and screw up, but it doesn't happen much. And really, there's not many restricted free agents in general. Especially in the QB class, we had Agent McCarron. We'll talk about that here in a second when we get to his name. But Agent McCarron was a restricted free agent. He won his grievance to become an unrestricted free agent. Mm-hmm. All right, so now let's dive into the QBs that are in the free agent market. So first of all, give me some of the teams that have the biggest need for QBs at the moment.
I would say comes at the top of my list would be the Cardinals. They're desperate.
Yeah.
The
and I guess you could say there's two levels to this. It's like the need of the team and the the opportunity that the quarterback has with that team. Like how flattering it is to actually go and play for that team.
Oh, well, you got the Browns, who it's not exactly flattering.
Yeah, but obviously they're the top of the list. They are definitely needy.
Yeah, but they're at the bottom of the list as attractiveness right now.
Yeah.
I think the Broncos are one of the more attractive teams for a free agent quarterback. I could see Kirk Cousins being fine there. I could see Case Keenum being fine there. Because they have such a powerful, defense, and a lot of their offensive weapons are there. It's just the quarterback position was just so lacking last year that we saw a different type of Broncos team. Even the defense looked worse because they were on the field the entire game.
Yeah. and that's the thing about the Broncos especially, and even the Cardinals, because they have an okay defense.
Yeah,
and they
Cardinals
have
would be another team.
Ton of offensive weapons.
Yeah.
But the Broncos especially, they just need a quarterback to be okay. They won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, and that year Peyton Manning threw 9 touchdowns and 17 picks. You just have to be okay, and they
did not have that this year.
Yeah, that's why I think. I think it's a very, very opportunistic spot for one of these quarterbacks if they want to win a title. Now, granted, when you're looking at all these quarterbacks and all free agents, they're looking at one, their opportunity, how much they're going to be able to play. Their chance to win, obviously, and how much they're going to get paid. That's a big thing. Yeah. That's why the Browns option might be a little more flattering to some of these guys, because the Browns have a lot more money to spend than anybody else out there.
Yep, that is very true.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. And honestly, the Browns' job from a quarterback's perspective really might not be that bad. I mean, you're talking about an offensive line that's one of the best in the league. They pumped up that line. And you got, obviously, there's no quarterback there to challenge you. You have Josh Gordon, who might have revitalized his career. You have an incredible rookie or second-year tight end in David Njoku. You have Corey Coleman. You have 2 of the top 4 picks in the draft. So you get Saquon Barkley. That is, I mean, I think that's one of the best jobs you could have, and you're going to get paid. You know you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
Like if Kirk Cousins decides he wants to go to the Browns, there's no doubt in my mind. Now, granted, when it happens, because whoever's the last big quarterback to sign, or their extension, or sign with a new team, they're going to be the highest paid quarterback. But when Kirk Cousins signs, if he does sign with the Browns, I think he will be the highest paid quarterback in history.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, you mentioned the Cardinals, Broncos, Browns. Jets is another good option.
Yeah. Bills.
They're needy. Bills, we still don't know what they're going to do with Tyrod.
Yeah.
Jets, we got Josh McCown's going to be a free agent, so we don't know what the situation is there. A few other teams, I know Jags have been looking around for a quarterback. I think Bortles I think he's fine, especially with what they're asking him to do. They should have been in the Super Bowl if they would have handled that game right. I think I have no problem with Bortles.
Nope.
Dolphins, maybe. They're losing Cutler. They're losing Matt Moore. I think they're losing David Fales as well. Ryan Tannehill coming off his injury. We don't know what he's going to be. He was never that great to begin with.
No.
So maybe Dolphins in the mix. And then a few teams that have quarterbacks, like obviously big-time quarterbacks, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, but are on the older side that might be looking for a young guy to be a backup or to possibly be the future of their organization. Now, I know a lot of these teams are probably going to be looking towards the draft over free agency, because a lot of these quarterbacks in free agency are a bit old, but the Giants might be looking to replace Eli. They were obviously trying to do that last year, so Eli could be
in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Now, granted, Giants are probably going to go and snag one of those top quarterbacks. Yeah. Patriots, obviously, Brady's getting older. Brian Hoyer's not going to be the option, so I think Patriots. I know.
Just shattered my entire universe.
Chargers, Phillip Rivers isn't getting any younger.
No.
Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Dobbs, I don't think is going to be the future of that team.
Hey, whoa.
Sorry, Peyton's not here.
Got to see him in action first.
Very true. And then Saints, I know Brees is a free agent right now, but I fully expect him to be back with the Saints, and they could very well be in the market for another QB. Yep. So, time to break down the top 10 free agent QBs. This is our consensus rankings, just mine and Brett's. Obviously, with just 2 rankings, we kind of had to do like a coin flip on a few of them to decide which spot they'd be. But other than a few, like once we get past like the top 5, it's about the same all the way down. It's just preference. Most of these guys are going to be backups at that point. But the top guys, I mean, it's a really deep QB class, and I think a lot of guys are going to have solid starting jobs in the NFL this coming season. So, like I said before, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not going to be on the list. He's already signed. And got to mention homeboy from Dobbins Bennett, Kingsport, Tennessee, Daniel Kilgore, signed a 3-year deal as well. So Jimmy Garoppolo, Daniel Kilgore, they're going to be matched up for a while. I mean, that's the center. That's the guy you put your hands under his crotch for however long. That's the guy you're buddy with. Okay, so you want to kick it off with the first QB?
Yeah. Topping off the list, we've got Kirk Cousins.
Old Kirk.
Yeah. It's I was reading a little bit today. There's still, there's been so many articles about, how he's been treated on the Redskins
like crap.
And it's been awful. And even today, there's an article that came out that said that he would use his grievance if the Redskins still tried to franchise tag him, which I don't even know why they would even try that at this point. It's just such a broken relationship.
Yeah.
My opinion is he's definitely going somewhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do want to say I think the Redskins have just completely blown their opportunity with their quarterbacks the past couple years.
Yeah.
Obviously, the RG3 thing they didn't really have control over.
No,
but even
injury situation.
Even when they drafted RG3 and he went down, I thought Kirk Cousins was going to be like I've always liked Kirk Cousins, even from the draft, which is I was shocked when they took both of them in that draft. But I've loved Kirk Cousins. I think he's a great quarterback. I shouldn't say great. I think he's a very good quarterback that the Redskins should have definitely held on to. They should have re-signed him. But that relationship, as you said, has been just
it's awful,
fractured from the beginning. They never really wanted him, even though he's provided them a ton of production, pretty much the only offensive production they've had. But yeah, Kirk Cousins.
When they go out and sign Alex Smith.
Yeah, which is completely bizarre to me. But anyway, Kirk Cousins, 26-30 or 26-30-1 as a starter. Not too bad. That has a lot to say about that Redskins defense and injuries and things like that.
Right.
But he's had at least 25 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in each of the last 3 years, which he's only been starting for 3 years. So 25 touchdowns, that's what you want. He's been passing for close to 4,000 yards each year. Been to 2 playoff games. He lost both, but
he's been there.
Yeah, that's what I think. And a lot of these quarterbacks have this, surprisingly. But the playoff experience, teams look at that and they really, really want that. They like seeing that on a player's resume, and it really, really bodes well for Kirk Cousins that he's been there. Hasn't had much success in the playoffs, but he can definitely lead a team, especially a better team than the Redskins, a lot further than he has been. Now, another thing about Kirk Cousins, 29 years old. He's one of the younger players in this QB free agency list, which, I mean, that's a good thing. 29 seems old, but, I mean, for a quarterback in this day and age, not really. And Kirk Cousins really hasn't had that much wear and tear either.
Yeah.
So, I guess, I mean, that's a definite upside, opposed to guys like McCarron and Brees and things like that. So, where do you think? Well, before you give me your final prediction on where he's going to go, what do you think, or what are the top 3 teams you think that Kirk Cousins? Because Kirk Cousins is the pinnacle of this list. He's going to have his pick of the litter most likely. He's going to have offers from multiple teams. Yeah. He's going to be the guy that people are going after. He's going to be the most expensive now. So that might deter some teams, and people might be fine with settling with one of these lower guys. But Kirk Cousins, where do you think he's going to end up?
My heart says Broncos. My kind of chancy prediction is the Jets.
Ooh, the Jets. I don't like that.
Yeah.
See, that's the most unflattering of these teams, I think.
The Jets?
Yeah, because they don't really have that many weapons. Quincy Enunwa's coming off a major injury. Yeah. Robbie Anderson might be suspended for however long. There's really not many weapons. I think the best opportunity for Kirk Cousins, obviously, if he's chasing the money, go to the Browns.
It's going to be the Browns,
yeah. Which, I mean, it's fine. I talked about how Josh Gordon and maybe Saquon Barkley and all those young wide receivers can. I mean, it'd be very nice because Kirk Cousins throws a beautiful deep ball. Decision making is a little meh, which the Browns might not be the best place for that to develop. No. But yeah, Browns if he's looking for the money. Cardinals and Broncos, I'm fine with either of those teams. Yeah. I think Cardinals, he's going to be looking at these guys and being like, okay, they obviously don't have a quarterback. Carson Palmer's might be done. They have arguably the best running back in football coming back. They have Larry Fitzgerald sticking around for another year, a top 5 receiver of all time. Yeah. They have incredible deep threats, which that's Kirk Cousins' bread and butter. John Brown, Jerron Brown, and J.J. Nelson. There's so much to love about that Cardinals job for him, and I would be very excited if he went there. And then the Broncos one, something is up with. I love the defense, but something is terribly, terribly wrong with that offense. And I think it's more than what Kirk Cousins can handle, because I just think it's just an operations thing and a management thing, because they're talking about getting rid of C.J. Anderson. I think if they do that...
I already know how you feel about C.J. Anderson.
Well, I think especially for Kirk Cousins, because I think Kirk Cousins needs a power back, a more that style of player, not Devontae Booker style of player, because obviously they're looking at him to be the lead back if Anderson moves on. I think if Anderson stays, I think if they can somehow keep Demaryius and Emmanuel Sanders, I think that's a fantastic job for Kirk Cousins. However, I think Anderson's going to move on, which sure, I hope he gets a good job somewhere because I think he's a great running back, and the Broncos still they don't respect him apparently. And then I know they said they're going to keep, or they're determined to keep Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, which great receivers for Kirk Cousins, but I have a feeling that they're just saying that to lure Kirk Cousins or one of these free agent quarterbacks in. Because I think once they get one of those quarterbacks, I think Emmanuel Sanders is gone. He costs too much. And
it would be expensive. I don't know if they're going to have the. I mean, I don't know if they're going to have the cap room to sign all of those players.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I don't see that happening. So, where do you think Kirk Cousins is going? Final decision.
I'll say Jets.
Jets,
just to be different.
All right, I'm going to say the Cardinals.
I like Cardinals the most, but I'll say Jets.
I'm going to say Cardinals. I think he has the best chance to win there. He's got the offensive weapons there. And I guess if he's chasing money, it's definitely going to be the Browns, but we'll just see how that goes. No one wants to say someone's going to the Browns, but anyway. All right, next quarterback, number 2 on the list, Drew Brees. And I know a lot of people look at this list and say, why is he number 2? Why isn't he number 1? He's a Hall of Famer. But the thing is,
it was hard for me to even include him on this list. I mean, he's just so different than all of these other players.
Yeah, one, he's 39 years old, so he's obviously the oldest quarterback in this class.
Yep.
And 2, he's not leaving the Saints. He's not leaving the Saints.
No.
Yeah, we know what the guy is. One of the best QBs of all time. First ballot Hall of Famer. Heart and soul of New Orleans. But not getting any younger, but it doesn't matter. He's he's staying with the Saints. And why on earth would you leave when you just got the Rookie of the Year, both Rookie of the Years?
Yeah.
Mark Ingram's still tearing it up at his at his current pace. Michael Thomas, one of the best wide receivers in the league right now. Ted Ginn, I mean, he's okay. He's a decent deep threat.
Yeah. And
not to mention, Saints might be in the running to get one of the free agent wide receivers, or maybe even bring Jimmy Graham back, which I would lose my mind. That offense would be hard to stop with Jimmy Graham out there.
Yep. It's already hard enough to stop.
But yeah, Saints, he's going to Saints. Or he's staying with the Saints.
Yeah, I'm not even going to entertain the idea of him going anywhere else.
Yeah. All right, who's our next guy?
Next up, we've got Case Keenum, our first player, our first ranked player, coming from the 3 Vikings QBs in free agency.
We'll get to them all.
We'll get to them all. You know, we saw the kind of up and down start that Sam Bradford had at the beginning of the season. Then he had some injuries, and then Case Keenum stepped in and just ran with it. You couldn't bench him after the way he was playing. And he played a great year. I mean, he was, just one game out of the Super Bowl, a home Super Bowl.
Home Super Bowl.
But he led that team to an NFC championship, and that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, definitely. 11-3 this past year, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 67% or completion percentage. Which I mean that's fantastic, incredible numbers for especially what they're trying to get him to do, and with a incredibly stout defense that the Vikings have. That's all they needed him to do. But again, playoff experience. He obviously had these 2 playoff games, won 1, lost 1, but the games were pretty much identical. They weren't great. They weren't terrible. He might have forced some things here and there, which I've seen him do in the past, especially back when he was on the Rams. He forced things every now and then. He threw passes that should have never been thrown. But yeah, it's the thing is, it's just whether the Vikings are going to actually say, okay, we were this close with Case Keenum. Should we just run with him and see where we can go? Because I don't think it's going to cost that much, really. Now, granted, this is probably the last, and for a lot of these guys, this might be the last time they get that contract opportunity, that big contract opportunity. And Case Keenum might see, he's going to go into meetings and interviews and be like, hey, I just led a team to the NFC Championship. Where's my money? Show me my money. I need to be paid at this point. Because obviously, the guy's got a family. He's working just like the rest of us, and I think it's going to be more whether the Vikings want him back and whether they're going to show that they really appreciated what he did. And I don't. It's hard to say whether that's going to actually be the case, but we'll just see how it goes. So where do you think he's going to end up, Case?
I'm going to say Broncos.
Broncos?
Yep.
That's not bad. And again, if he's basically it's basically the same situation, honestly. Yeah. Two pretty good receivers. Obviously, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. Yeah. Two great defenses. Mm-hmm. Just a mediocre run game, I should say. Granted, Vikings are going to get Dalvin Cook back, so that's a whole different thing. The Vikings job is going to drive me crazy for so long because obviously they have the three guys, and then they're talking about bringing other people in for possibly taking over the QB spot. It's just going to drive me crazy. I think that they're going to hold on to Case Keenum. I think he's going to be the guy.
Okay.
Again, and I really don't think there's really not a quarterback on here or on this list that I would say if they went to the Vikings, they would, without a doubt, be better than they were last year. I can't say that. There's no quarterback on here I could put in that slot where I'd be like, okay, they are the clear favorites in the NFC North in general. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, you're going to need a lot more than a Case Keenum quarterback or a free agent quarterback like these to win the NFC North. It's going to take a catastrophic injury to one of those teams to really get over the hump in that division alone. So I'm going to say Case Keenum is going to stick with the Vikings.
All right.
Next quarterback, fourth on the list. It's about damn time.
Oh my
AJ McCarron, 27 years old. He's the second youngest quarterback in this class. Finally won his grievance to become an unrestricted free agent. I hinted to that earlier. He was arguing that in 2014, the Bengals placed him on the non-football injury list, and that resulted in him adding a year to his rookie contract, so he would have still been a restricted free agent. So he won his grievance, so he's an unrestricted free agent now. He can sign wherever he wants. He is free. He is born free. And we haven't seen a lot from him. He's the one quarterback where we don't have a lot to look at, but he's 2-1 as a starter in the NFL. 64% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in those games. Again, not much to look at, but those numbers are fine for
three games.
Yeah,
not much
and again, surprisingly, started a playoff game. He's got and against Pitt,
out of those 3 games, one of them was a playoff game.
No, the 2-1 was just regular season.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but no, he lost his one playoff game in Pittsburgh by I think only 2 or 3 points. So you go into Pittsburgh, a first-time starter, AJ McCarron, going into Pittsburgh and putting up an okay game. I mean, that's more than a lot of those quarterbacks that we've seen in the past get jobs can say. Matt Flynn never started a playoff game. Brock Osweiler never started a playoff game. We have all those guys. At least AJ McCarron has a little bit of experience of how it is. And another thing, I know I don't like to look back at college too much, especially when you've been in the NFL for a decent amount of years, but if there's anything as close to the NFL experience and playing in big-time games, it's what AJ McCarron did at Alabama. He was in the championship multiple years. He was playing in big-time games. And people want to look at him and say, or especially his years at Alabama, saying, we know what Alabama is. They're just defense and run it down your throat kind of guy. AJ McCarron is just a role player. He just dumps it off here and there. Maybe like a Alex Smith type of player is like what they hoped he would be. But this is a guy, his junior year, nearly 3,000 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Senior year, over 3,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Those are big boy numbers. Those are big boy quarterback numbers. You don't see that much, and especially the interceptions. You take care of the ball like that. That's one of the more underrated things I think in the NFL today is, guys can go out there like Andrew Luck and throw however many touchdowns, but if you throw 20 picks, that's just as bad. I mean, it's tipping the scale, and I think AJ McCarron is. I can't remember. I know this is our consensus rankings. I can't remember exactly where I had. I think I had him at 4 anyway. But honestly, I could easily see him being the best out of this group of guys, other than Drew Brees, next year if he gets the right job. And again, it's about placement and it's about fit and everything like that. But that's just my take. What you tell me, because I know I've been waiting for AJ McCarron to get just a chance. That's all I've been asking for a while.
I know. Yes, and I will attest to that. You have been asking for that for a while. I just thought it was funny that out of these 10 free agents, this is the only one that you mentioned his college stats.
Well, that's all we have to go off of.
And that's my biggest problem. And that's
I understand that.
I'm not. There's plenty of like put in. Who was the? Oh shoot.
Well, I mean, you okay? Yeah, I know what you're going at. You can name a jillion college quarterbacks that had incredible stats.
No, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say for the Bills, what was the quarterback's name that they put in instead of Tyrod Taylor?
Peterman, Nathan Peterman. Yeah.
Okay, we've got situations like that where you've got a guy comes in, plays a game, and just absolutely, I mean, it's just a train wreck, like the worst NFL game ever. And I will say that didn't happen in any of these AJ McCarron games. But I'm just saying the sample size is just a little bit too small. I'm not saying he can't be good, and he's not good. I'm just saying that I don't know.
Yeah, I understand that, and again, this is I have been a very, very big proponent of not signing guys with this little of a track record, but and especially for big contracts, because again, Matt Flynn, Brock Osweiler, things like that. But they had like next to no track record. They had like a few games where they'd come in as a backup. AJ McCarron at least had, like, especially the playoff thing, and again, I know looking back it's not even the stats in college, it's the big time moments that he was in and how he manages the games. He was like, because I know we've seen all these quarterbacks come from Alabama and none of them pan out. This is the only one I think that actually has a legitimate chance.
He definitely has the best chance of anyone that we've seen.
And he's never been given that chance, and that's what I'm at. Yep. That's what I'm asking for. And don't tell me that if you can't get past Andy Dalton, for some reason the Bengals are
that's not
up Andy Dalton's butt. Everyone's been.
I'm not a big fan of Andy Dalton.
I'm not either. I just think the Bengals have mismanaged that team for a while now. Yeah. They did it with their running backs last year. They've been doing it with their quarterback for the past couple of years. Yeah. So I think just give the man a chance. I can't wait to see where he goes. There's a bunch of opportunities. I think he could fit in just about anywhere similar to Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of teams. Well, even the Vikings apparently have been considering AJ McCarron. That's another one of those names thrown in the Vikings hat, which again,
just add them all in there. They're probably talking about Drew Brees too.
Yeah, honestly, we're gonna say where we think or who we think is gonna go to the Vikings, and we're probably all gonna be wrong. Yep. But I don't know. Where do you think AJ McCarron ultimately ends up?
This is a tough one for me, just because it was kind of recent news, and you don't know how teams are gonna react. But you got to think about, the Browns were a misplaced paper away from having him on their team.
Very true.
So you have to throw them in there. But with there being a lot of other options for the Browns out there on the free agency and their ability to pay, just name the price.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll go after McCarron, but I'll stick with the Browns. I'll say the Browns.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately going to be the Browns. I think Kirk Cousins, I don't think they're going to be able to get him. I think AJ McCarron is going to be the next best option for them. I think he's going to the Browns. If that doesn't work out, I think the Broncos would be fine for AJ as well. I don't know. There's so many flattering options right now, especially like the wide receivers on the teams that these guys could go to is just remarkable. I know some of the other teams, like that's why I don't think the Jets are going to be in the running for that many of these high prize guys. I don't think the Bills are going to be that big because they don't really have that many receivers either. But the Cardinals, Broncos, and even the Browns, they got some nice receivers that could, and the Vikings, and they got nice receivers that could lure these quarterbacks in. Ultimately, I think he's going to go to the Browns. It seemed like that was a relationship built, but that crumbled just from a slight error. Okay, fifth one, or number 5 on our list, Teddy Bridgewater, the kid, 25 years old, by far the youngest in this class. I guess he's fully recovered from his knee injury in 2016. It's been 2 years, so...
Hope so.
We saw him play very, very little in that one game towards the end of the season, and I can't really judge much off of that. They say he's looking 100%, but you don't. After an injury like that, you don't really know. It's hard to come back from that. Him being younger helps with the recovery process, but still, it's kind of tough to gauge. And again, youngest QB in the class. His best year, however. I know the Vikings look at him like, and a lot of people did, as like he was like the next big thing. He was going to be the Vikings quarterback of the future. This is the guy we're looking towards. But his best year was 3,000 passing yards. That's fine. Only 14 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He went 11-5. Case Keenum blew that out of the water last year.
Yeah.
Just blew it out of the water. Sam Bradford blew that out of the water, and he was, or the year before, and he was hurt in a few of those games. He does have, again, he's got a playoff game under his belt. Lost it only because Blair Walsh can't hit the broadside of a barn with a field goal kick. They lost against Seattle, but it's still. I think Bridgewater, they still like him a lot in Minnesota, and fans seem to like him. I mean, he's a really likable guy. I just don't know if he's that talented of a quarterback, which again. With these teams building up these defenses and having these solid run games with Dalvin Cook and things like that, good line now, I don't think Teddy Bridgewater has to go out there and be this superstar.
No.
So that's another plus for him staying with the Vikings.
Right.
But the thing is, it's just whether the Vikings see him as their poster child still. I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think Teddy Bridgewater is fitting in this class?
Well, you said you thought the Vikings would keep Case Keenum. I'm going to say the Vikings are going to keep Teddy Bridgewater.
See, I agree. I think they're going to keep both.
Oh, okay.
I think they're going to keep.
That's fine too.
I think they're going to. I think
they've got plenty of options.
Yeah, I think Keenum's going to be the starter. I think they're going to keep Bridgewater on a 1-year deal, just to see how it goes, see how the knee's going. If Case Keenum slips up even a little bit, I think Keenum might be on a short leash. Yeah. Surprisingly. But they still, I think they really want Bridgewater to be their quarterback.
I think they do too. I mean, you don't hear. I mean, they've been very positive, just with what they've said about him and the recovery process. It doesn't seem like a bad situation for him to stay in. I don't think they're too antsy to get rid of him. So I think they'll. But I do think that they'll either keep Case Keenum or. Sign another free agent to be there to start off 2018.
See, that's another thing about the Vikings job. I can't fathom them having these three. They're premier quarterbacks. They're good starting quarterbacks. Granted, every single one of them has some issues, whether it be injury or little to go off of or inconsistency. But I find it really hard to believe that the Vikings will pass on all three of these guys. One of these guys has to be back with the team and be the starter. That's what I think. Which I guess you're thinking Teddy. I'm thinking Case. I think they keep both. I think it's going to be Case getting the starting job, but we'll just see. Now, what do you think about this? I wrote this down. I've been thinking this for a while. Especially when Case was, or the season's still going on, and Keenum was clearly keeping the starting job. And Teddy wasn't really pushing for that. I thought that, I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I don't know if it's going to happen a few years down the road. But Tom Brady's going to retire at some point. I think Teddy Bridgewater might be a target for the Patriots. He's young. They really don't have. They don't. Obviously, they're not going to be. If they keep winning at this point, they're not going to get one of these premier quarterbacks in the draft. So Teddy Bridgewater's just out there for the taking.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a pretty big swing in quarterback styles, but it's Bill Belichick. He's going to win no matter what. So,
granted, Belichick might be gone by then too.
That's true. I mean, I have no idea how long he's going to be in the league, but I can see that. Yeah, especially if Belichick moves on or retires. That would be something that I think that would be a better option than any of these other guys. I think for the long term for the Patriots.
And again, because
they're not going to unless they trade up for draft picks. They're not going to get a.
Yeah. Now, granted, you can find gems in the draft left and right.
Yeah.
Garoppolo was a gem. They let him go. But Bridgewater, he's 25. That's the key. Him being that young and still being able to play the position and play it well might lure him to another spot or just keep him in Minnesota. All right, number 6, who we got?
Number 6, rounding out the Vikings trio, Sam Bradford.
Sammy Biscuits.
Yeah. He started off really well this year. What was that first game that he played? Was it against the Saints?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which is really weird to think of now looking back. But
yeah.
I mean, he just lit them up.
Yeah.
It was the Saints. Everyone thought the Saints were going to have a terrible defense, and they did for that one game.
Yeah.
He started off so well, but then, he got the injury plague, and Case Keenum just never looked bad.
Yeah, and that's the... Again, Bradford, he's 30 years old. He's not that old.
That is much younger than I thought he was.
Yeah, I mean, he's not that old. When he plays, he's a really, really good quarterback.
Yeah.
Even going back to his college days, I'll bring up college again. I mean, he's a Heisman winner. Yeah. He came out, went to St. Louis, went to the Rams, formerly St. Louis Rams.
Formerly.
And, he was great there, but the thing is...
I saw him beat the Buccaneers in Tampa.
There you go. But, yeah, he's been great with the Vikings. In 2016, that was the year I was talking about where... he had 71% completions, 3,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I mean, that's an incredible year. That's phenomenal. But can he stay healthy? He's only played a full season twice in his career. He's 34, 45, and 1 as a starter. That has more to do with him being on the Rams and Jeff Fisher's team for that long. But I don't know. It's just, if you're a GM or just a team in general, are you willing to take that risk with his injury history? I just don't.
I would say no. I mean, 2 full seasons when you're 30 years old is not good. That's not a good stat.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's unfortunate that it happens, but I mean, especially that knee. I mean, it's just like a big puddle of jelly at this point. It's been operated on so much. I mean, I don't even know how it's still intact, and you have to wonder if you're a team.
And he had a shoulder injury this past year too.
Yeah, and then with the shoulder, I mean, he's just hurting all over. So I don't know. Especially if you got a team like the Cardinals, you had some pretty devastating injuries this year to the quarterback and the running back position. That's a big risk.
Yeah, and
you've got to have someone solid behind him.
Yeah, and a few years ago, like when Bradford went to the Eagles, or when the Vikings initially got Bradford, it looked great because the QB class wasn't even close to what this one is. There are a lot more options this year than Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford used to be like the premier guy. Now Sam Bradford is lower on the list, and 6 might be even too high because of the injury risk. So
yeah.
I just think, I don't know. I think he's going to sign with one of these, I don't know. Maybe I think he's going to sign with one of the lower tier teams, maybe like the Bills or the Jets. But if he does sign with like the Cardinals or the Broncos, I guarantee it's going to be the same as this Vikings season this year. He's going to start like the first 2 or 3 games. He's going to look phenomenal, and then something's going to happen.
Yep.
He's going to get hurt, and it's not. And I mean, they're going to be stuck out to dry.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that he's going to go to the Jets. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I was between the Jets and the Cardinals, so for the sake of being different, I'll say the Cardinals.
Cardinals, all right. And again, if he stays healthy with the Cardinals, that's
a good pickup.
That's
for them.
not bad. It's not bad at all. Number 7 on our list, Josh McCown.
Yep.
Another 39-year-old.
This one was probably the hardest for me to just pick a team.
Yeah, Okay, McCown's been on 8 different NFL teams,
so really it could be anybody.
It could be anybody. Can he make it to 10? But I mean, McCown, he's been just the mediocre guy. He's been like, who's a Jeff Garcia back in the day, bounced around to a billion teams. Kerry Collins, I shouldn't say that. Kerry
Brad
Collins.
Johnson.
Yeah. Bounced around to a few teams. He's had some success with a few of them. Mm-hmm. Had some pretty good games, some okay moments. But I mean, he's 23-50 as a starter. He has never played in all 16 games of a season.
That's crazy.
And he's 39, so that's, I mean, the odds of that happening, still happening.
Well, he played a solid season before he got injured this year.
He always does.
He always before he gets injured.
Yeah, he always seems to have a decent season, and he does okay. He has decent weapons around him. Even like Robbie Anderson was doing fine. Quincy Nunn was doing fine. Austin Seferian-Jenkins looked good. It's just, I just see him as I don't know, like a poor man's Alex Smith, who's even older. Which, I mean, that just sounds like a load of garbage right there. Like, no one would want that. But, I mean, he keeps getting starting jobs, and he's doing okay with them. I just think he's going to be more of a backup at this point. I think teams bring him in for experience only. Yeah. I don't see Josh McCown leading a team very far. I think of him more as a backup, even when he is in that starting role. So, I mean, there are a few options. Again, I think it's going to be one of the lower tier teams. Where do you think McCown ends up?
This one was really tough because honestly, I think it makes more sense for him to be a backup at this point. But there's been rumors that he's going to retire and everything, but now he's going to come back. I mean, do you think that he would be willing to sign somewhere knowing he's going to be a quarterback at age 39?
You mean a backup, or being a backup?
Yeah.
That's the tough thing. I don't know. I mean, some guys are fine with it. Some guys are fine sitting there, just going to practice. They like their job. They don't really need all the, publicity of being the starting quarterback. But
right.
McCown, I do think he's going to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be like just going back to the Jets, or maybe he ends up with the Bills. I think maybe I have a feeling that one of these teams, one of the big teams, Cardinals, Broncos, Browns, probably the Browns, because they're known for it. But I feel like one of these teams, they're going to slip up in a big way, and they're going to miss out on all of these like top 5, 6 guys. Yeah. And McCown might end up on the Cardinals. He might end up back on the Cardinals. Now, I don't know how likely that is, but I'll just, for the sake of it, I'll just say he's going to stay with the Jets.
I'm going to say that I'm going to say the Browns.
Browns?
Yeah, I think.
God, that'd be gross.
I don't want to see that, but when you're talking about, he is an experienced veteran quarterback. No matter how mediocre he's been, he is experienced, and something tells me the Browns just need a little bit of experience at that position.
Yeah, and honestly, we might not see any of these guys sign until after the draft, because Browns have some of the top picks, Giants have top picks, Broncos have top picks, Cardinals are somewhat high on the list.
Yeah.
So we might see them just go for that, and then I could see Josh McCown signing with one of those teams if, like, say the Browns go out or Broncos go out and draft Baker Mayfield, and then they're like, oh, but we want like McCown in here as like kind of like a mentor, like an older guy. He's going to start for a while, and then Baker Mayfield might come in or something like that. Just an example, but
that's kind of how I would feel like he would end up on the Browns. That's kind of just like the mentor, older dude.
Yeah, and it would be like the Browns to miss out and on everybody and just pay McCown chump change. All right, number 8 on the list, Ryan Fitzpatrick. 35 years old. Again, he's getting up there. I don't know how much longer he's going to play. Again, I think he's just going to be a backup somewhere. Which,
I mean, he's backup now.
Which pretty much all these guys we're going to list from here on out probably going to be backups, especially, I mean, the QBs and now the QBs coming out of the draft and the QBs on this free agency list, I mean, they're so good. Every team is going to – I don't see any team having, like, just that crud quarterback like we've seen in the past. I don't think there's going to be like a Trevor Siemian out there. We're not going to have Drew Stanton's playing every week.
Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, we're not going to have that. Deshaun Kaiser, we're not going to have that garbage anymore. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, 35 years old, 48-70 as a starter, seems to be on the same path as McCown, as I mentioned, bouncing around from team to team. I think he's been on close to 8 teams as well. Last year with Tampa, I know Jameis was hurt here and there, but he had 1,000 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2-1 as a starter. I mean, that's what you want a backup to do. Go out there and win games, and just keep the team alive. So, I'll just throw this off to you. Where do you? I mean, because you were obviously watching Fitzpatrick a lot more than I was this year.
Yeah.
But well, heck, we almost saw him live, but Jameis made a miraculous comeback.
It was a revival.
Yeah, played up in Green Bay. But where do you think Fitzpatrick's going to end up?
That's tough because he's just gonna be a backup. So I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter that much. But I'm gonna say he's gonna go to the Cardinals as a backup.
I think he's just gonna. See. I don't like it. Once guys like these. I know they move around like crazy, but I think he stays in Tampa. I think he either stays in Tampa or he goes to I think he might go to the Bills or go back to the Bills if Tyrod does move on, and maybe he's a starter. See, I say that all these teams are going to have like perfect quarterback, or not perfect quarterbacks, but nice quarterback situations, but you know someone's going to screw up and end up with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their starter.
Yep.
Next guy on the list, Blaine Gabbert, 28 years old. We'll go through these two quick. Perennial backup. That's all I can say. I mean, and again, that's fine. Every team needs a backup, but he's not going to be like a sought after guy in this one. I think he's going to stick with the Cardinals. I think he's just going to stay there.
That's what I was going to say. I can't imagine anyone signing him. At this point.
And I mean, Cardinals have a lot of things to look at when it comes to the QB position. Because again, we don't know what Carson Palmer is going to do. He might stay, but. If they get Kirk Cousins, I think it's safe to say he will be the starter. Next guy, who you got? Round out the top 10.
Tom Savage, another
Savage
backup. Oh, Savage. I'm sorry. Yeah, we saw him. Start on the Texans. It was bad. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, he had weapons around him. He had DeAndre Hopkins. Just who had an incredible season.
Which he did fine with Savage. Granted, Savage's numbers were not good, but
DeAndre Hopkins did fine with Savage, but Savage did not. Still couldn't be successful even with them, and he still had Will Fuller.
He pretty. Although Hopkins stayed solid, he pretty much tanked the rest of the team, especially for a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I mean, after that, Will Fuller was nothing. You couldn't use him. Lamar Miller was pretty much useless.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's just going to be a backup, and there's not a whole lot you can say about it.
That's why I think he's going to stick with the Texans. I think he's just going to stay there. He's going to be their backup, which is fine. He's familiar with what's going on. Deshaun Watson, just praying that he's healthy and ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be his team. But Tom Savage, I think, just being there, knowing the system, and he's 27. Being young, that's also good.
I'm going to throw him to the Chargers. They're going to sign him for depth.
All right.
That's what I'll say.
Hey, I like it.
Couldn't be too boring with number 9 and 10.
Yeah. All right. So, that rounds out our top 10. There are tons of more quarterbacks out there. They're probably going to be backups, but I'll just go through a few real quick. Jay Cutler, I think he's done now. I think he's going to be done. I think he's going to go sit in the booth somewhere and God, I don't want to listen to that, but Jay Cutler, he's probably going to be...
it's going to be Jay Cutler and Tony Romo.
God, well, at least Romo will keep me interested. Then Matt Moore, another Dolphins quarterback, he's going to be out there. Geno Smith, maybe. Derek Anderson. Derek Anderson is actually kind of interesting because I thought he's been fantastic with the Panthers. He's been one of the best backups in football, especially since Cam Newton seems to get hurt here and there.
Yep.
Mark Sanchez... Again, I didn't realize Mark Sanchez, I think he's only like 30 years old. Mark Sanchez is like 30 years old, and he's...
It's really hard for me to imagine.
Yeah, same with Bradford. I think they were in the same class. But Mark Sanchez maybe gets... I know he was with the Bears, but I don't know, maybe some team looks at him. Drew Stanton's out there, and again, Brock Osweiler, I guess I'll mention some team you know is going to look at him. So that... I know we... I mean, this has mainly been rambling about where guys would go, but going back to, because we are a fantasy football podcast, going back to that perspective, the fantasy perspective, what do you think, like, out of all these guys, or give me like the best 3 situations from a fantasy perspective that can happen?
That could happen.
Exclude Drew Brees, because we know that's going to be, that's the pinnacle, we know what that is.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, where, like, in my opinion, Kirk Cousins going to the Cardinals would probably be my favorite from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think he'd be a top 10 quarterback easy with the Cardinals.
If the Broncos truly can hold on to their wide receivers, that I would like that situation a little bit more. Barely though, it's close between the Cardinals.
More than the Cardinals?
I mean, just
I don't
barely.
know about that.
I mean, they just don't have a very explosive offense other than like one player.
I love the deep threats that the Cardinals have. They have 3 wide receivers that can blow the top off of defenses. The Broncos don't have anybody who can just flat out outrun guys. And the thing that separates all these teams from the Cardinals from all these teams, David Johnson. David Johnson is like he's the pearl inside the oyster that you have to have this guy on your team. He just makes everyone better. And Kirk Cousins can be a perfectly good quarterback just dumping the ball off to David Johnson.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would help a lot. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter who's throwing David Johnson the ball. He's going to make something happen with it. So, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like to see him on the Broncos.
Do you see Kirk Cousins just, whether it be the Broncos, Cardinals, Browns even, do you see him being a top 10 fantasy quarterback next year?
Top 10?
Yeah, because, I mean, he's going to be paid like a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's so many good quarterbacks now.
I don't think I could put him in the top 10. He would be really close.
Yeah. He'd
be in the 10 to 12 range for me, I would say.
Yeah.
If he goes to one of these teams. I mean, obviously, if he goes to the Jets, probably not.
Yeah. If I was doing like a dynasty league or doing like redraft league, if I was drafting now I wouldn't say now, but like once all these guys get signed and depending on where they go, because again, it's all about fit and it's all about scheme and it's all about technique and things like that. But after Kirk Cousins and obviously Drew Brees, of course, and again, we mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo earlier. I think he's going to be better than all these guys, maybe even better than Brees next year. But if I was going to pick a guy outside of those, I would, for a fantasy perspective, depending on where he goes, I think Agent McCarron is going to outperform fantasy-wise over Case Keenum, over Bridgewater, over Bradford. I think he outdoes all of them. And again, I think even if
Cousins.
No, not okay. Cousins. Not over Cousins. I mean, granted, situation could be okay. If McCarron's on the Cardinals and Kirk Cousins is on the Broncos, I'll take McCarron. I would 100% take McCarron over Kirk Cousins then. I don't know. I just want to see him given a chance. Again, I'll be preaching that throughout the offseason.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I cannot wait.
But
absolutely can't wait.
One more question before we close out the show, because I know we're almost...
Better not be about Alabama or A.J. McCarron.
No, it has nothing to do with either of those things, even though I want it to be. Who do you think has more fantasy points next year, Kirk Cousins or Alex Smith?
Kirk Cousins. Well, yeah, Kirk Cousins.
I think the Redskins might actually have the worst record in football next year.
Wow.
I think they don't have any weapons whatsoever. Jordan Reed is their best offensive weapon. He's not going to do anything if he can't stay healthy. Josh Doxson, his fantasy value especially has just tanked because Alex Smith definitely can't do what Kirk Cousins did in terms of throwing it deep down the field and giving them jump balls. Because Alex Smith has never really had a big receiver like that. He was fine when he had Tyreek Hill, who could just blow the top off of defenses, and it's just a big guy like Travis Kelce and fast running back like Kareem Hunt. He looked like a superstar last year. But the Redskins don't have that. Jamison Crowder's okay. He doesn't have the speed that Tyreek Hill had. So I think their defense is garbage, for one. Redskins offense a little better, but I still think I don't like it, and I don't really know what they're gonna do with their running backs either. They got P. Ryan, they still have Rob Kelly, they got Chris Thompson.
For them too.
Hopefully, Chris Thompson's healthy by the start of the season.
Yeah,
I don't. It's gonna be ugly. I don't like it. I don't like any piece of that Redskins team from a fantasy perspective whatsoever.
No, I was trying to think of another team that I would put kind of below them, but.
It would be the Browns, but I think I'm hoping
they have to improve.
They have the most money to spend in free agency, and they have the top or two of the top 4 picks. If they tank this year, there's no hope. There's no hope.
It's not going to be a better situation.
Now, granted, this is the most Browns thing because there was a report that Browns are looking to bring back Terrell Pryor.
Oh my god! I read that article.
Yeah,
I LOL'd for sure. What? I mean, that was a terrible situation. I mean, he's not any good. Not at wide receiver.
He's not.
He's not a wide receiver.
He's a fantastic athlete, but he's not. If you're trying to build like an actual football team with if you're trying to especially if you're going to get Kirk Cousins or Agent McCarron, these like a premier pocket passer, NFL style quarterback. And you're going to throw them out there with Josh Gordon and Corey Coleman and David Njoku, 3 great talents that can catch the ball. And then you just throw Terrell Pryor in the mix. It's just going to be it's like throwing just a bunch of nails in a blender. And it's going to be ugly. And it's not going to be fun to watch. I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't think that'll work out at all. Granted, I can very, very, very easily see that happening. I don't know. We'll get to that when we get to our wide receiver episode of free agency. But for the quarterbacks, we're done. We're done talking about the quarterbacks for the time being. We'll give you updates once free agency officially starts and people start signing. We'll give you updates all the time. We'll try to tweet those out as much as possible. Again, at the 423 Football. If you're interested in viewing all of that content on Twitter. But yeah, quarterback episode. We are done. Next week, we'll be back to talk running backs, and then week after that, wide receivers, week after that, tight ends. Then we might do a recap of all of free agency, and then we're going to start talking NFL draft, because coming up quick, we're only doing these once a week, so we got to get moving. So yeah, running backs next week. Make sure you stay tuned for that. So yeah, that's going to be the show for today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the 423 Football. Like us over on Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Give us a like. Leave your comments and reviews. Thanks for listening. Share us with the world. We are the 423 Football Podcast.
Peace out.